Hey y'all, miss me? Well, that's enough. Time for me to leave. Hey, is that the narrator? Oh my Loki, where has this show been? I don't mean about the hiatus. I mean this. Where has this quality been? Did the show just need Richard to inject a shot of awesomeness into its arm? Is Tom Welling so super even he can save a falling show? It would seem yes. I want to table the canon questions until later. Do I have complaints? Pretty minor ones that would be excessively nitpicky. Probably my largest overall complaint is that just once, could we get a new kind of family argument? Is it me or does it just seem like every current production always has the same fight in these? Oh, I had to leave and hurt you because I love you too much. Just once. Do you think you can write an argument between two characters where both characters are correct? And if you're sitting there asking yourself, well, how can two people fight and both of them be right? I'm sorry, but that's what makes you an amateur. You need to figure that out. It was, of course, a delight to see Richard Speight Jr. return as our beloved trickster. The guy has just such a magnetism on screen. It's just always great to have him in frame. Of course, there's the big question of, is this the real actual Loki or is it Gabriel in disguise? I have no theory at the moment. I always hated episode 1320, Unfinished Business, for completely messing up the Gabriel lore and timeline by establishing that Loki was an actual being that existed on his own. The episode in canon just all starts falling apart the more you think about that. Trying to keep all the Trickster episodes harmonious, Gabriel would almost have to be in disguise by this point, or is he and Loki both just doing their own thing with the same face during the 1970s here? Whatever. I do find it annoying that they tried to use bloody knives to kill him instead of wooden stakes, which the show established is the proper way to kill Loki in 3 different episodes. However, I will grant that the knife solution did not work. And given that they got it out of a book, there is an excuse that maybe that book was wrong. So the canon was a little strained, but not broken here. I thought Tom Welling did a solid enough job as Samuel, at least when he was conscious. I'm sure it was a hard session of filming, getting to take naps on the couch all day. His moniker of the Men of Letters is Moleman made me laugh, and that's probably a slang term I'm going to be using from now on. At least some of the conflict portrayed by him between hunters and mole men made some sense. Although it is kind of funny to go back and rewatch season 6 after this episode, where you can see how back then the show was kind of setting up the Campbells as a kind of proto-mole men-like organization on their own. They even had a proto-bunker, so it's just funny to see what writers intended in the past and where we ended up in the future. Everything else was fine. Everybody's acting seemed improved and a general step up. Even Mary seemed to have found her footing, as like this scene. I think they may now be rushing John and Mary's relationship a little too much here. They should have had a better ramp up over the season, but at least we're getting some affection now. Again, kind of like I said earlier with arguments, you start to wonder if modern writers can write a slow burn romance anymore, or is all they know about relationships that they're either 0 or 60. Of course, the big thing, the massive reveal, is that apparently Dean is in the past here, changing things up. The most obvious conclusion is that he's time traveled and created a new timeline now because you think John, who recognized Dean at a glance in a photo, would recognize him again when Dean sells the Impala to John. But then, if this is Dean, when in Dean's life is it? I've seen some wonder if this is when he's a ghost or afterlife Dean. Possible, but it makes no real sense what or who he's supposed to be writing to. Some of the initial scenes hinted that maybe this is Dean before the show when he was on his own and is writing a letter to Sam. While that is more likely than dead Dean, he very clearly indicated that the first time Castiel took him to the past in episode 403 in the beginning, that was his first time going time traveling. Is it some other period in Dean's life? Maybe one of those weekends he and Sam were apart? This is why I always stress that writers should make a concerted effort to maintain continuity, because it's a sign that you care and it's a way to build trust with the audience. Mistakes will happen, but if you have done the work and built up that trust, then when something like this Dean in the photo reveal happens, the audience gets invested and begins trying to watch closer, looking for signs and breadcrumbs that you may have left. But if you don't build that trust, if the message is, don't worry about it, it's just fiction, then something like that reveal just has almost no impact. Because you've already explained to me that it doesn't matter. You'll do whatever you want regardless of the logic or sense that it makes. Oh, hey, it's Dean. I bet you'll say this was some lost weekend outing with Jack or something in the middle of, season 13 where Jack was in another world or something. Because you have established that you don't care. Winchesters hasn't quite burned that bridge that badly yet, but the last few seasons of the Mothership and a few hiccups in this show have rendered me pretty jaded and cynical. Had this episode been very tight and consistent with continuity, especially given the guest appearance of the Trickster, I would absolutely be on board with the Dean reveal and heavily invested in the next episode. All told, still, I have to give this episode the top score of 5 out of 5 salt shells. This show has finally found its standard-setting episode, the high point by which all others should be judged. If the rest of the season can finish out at or near this level of quality, we'll have a strong recommendation to the rest of the fandom. I really hope next week's episode is just as good. Join me then.